That night, I heard my daughter giving her husband my card's PIN. I was in the guest room of my own condo, the one I was letting them live in, pretending to be asleep. The walls are thin. Their voices were low, conspiratorial. Greedy. 8472, my daughter Tasha whispered. That's what she wrote down, her new PIN she can never remember, she's so stupid. Are you sure? My son-in-law Reggie whispered back. This is it, babe? Tonight? Yes, tonight. Tasha snapped. She's asleep. Just go. The ATM 2 blocks away, the one in the lobby, take it all out. There's over $80,000 on it. Pay off the damn car. We deserve this. That old woman doesn't need as much as we do. I'll make sure she gives me her pension next. I heard him grab his keys. I heard the apartment door click softly shut. I didn't move, I didn't call the police, I just lay there in the darkness staring at the ceiling. And I smiled. I smiled and went back to sleep because the trap I had set 2 weeks ago was finally beautifully springing shut. 40 minutes later I heard Tasha's phone buzz on her nightstand through the wall. A frantic vibrating sound. Then a long pause. Then I heard a sound I will cherish for the rest of my life. A low strangled wail of pure unadulterated panic. She must have read the text, the one I knew was coming, the one from her husband, the one that said, babe, your mom knew everything, let me tell you how we got here. Let me tell you about the simple old woman they thought they could rob blind. They forgot what I did for a living for 40 years. I was a senior forensic auditor for the IRS. My entire life was dedicated to finding the money people thought they had hidden and holding them accountable for their greed. And my own family, they were the sloppiest, most arrogant case I'd ever seen. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. Let's be clear, my son-in-law Reggie is a fool. He's a blunt instrument, but my daughter Tasha is the real villain. She's the one with the poison, the one who knows exactly where to slide the knife. To her I am Mildred Millie Carter, Mom, the retired, boring civil servant. A 68-year-old widow who lives on a meager pension. She sees my simple, comfortable 2-bedroom condo, the one I've owned for 30 years. She sees my 10-year-old Toyota. She sees my department store cardigans and my sensible shoes, and she sees a poverty mindset. She sees a frail, naive old woman who is bad with money and needs to be managed. She sees a problem to be solved, a resource to be tapped, and an embarrassment to be endured. She, on the other hand, is Tasha Carter Jones, a wellness brand. That's what she calls herself. A social media influencer who sells overpriced, untested supplements and manifest abundance courses to thousands of gullible followers. Her entire identity is a performance of luxury, a carefully curated Instagram feed of rented luxury cars, borrowed designer bags, and champagne brunches she can't afford. Her husband Reggie is her matching accessory. He's a high-end personal trainer with sculpted oiled muscles, a leased luxury SUV, and not a single original thought in his head. His brand consists of taking selfies of his abs in gym mirrors. Together they live in a constant, breathless state of financial panic, a house of cards built on high-interest credit and performative wealth. They are drowning in debt, and they see me as their personal, untapped bailout. What they don't know, what they never bothered to ask, what they were too arrogant and self-absorbed to ever imagine, is who I really am. I wasn't just a city worker, I was a senior forensic auditor for the IRS. For 40 years my job wasn't just checking math, it was sniffing out fraud. I didn't just look at ledgers, I looked for lies. I dismantled complex tax evasion schemes set up by men who thought they were geniuses. I followed hidden money trails through webs of offshore accounts, shell corporations, and fake charities. I built ironclad, bulletproof cases against arrogant, narcissistic millionaires who thought they were smarter than the system. They never were. I'm not bad with money, I'm brilliant with it. My modest pension is just the tip of the iceberg, the small visible part of my wealth. My simple life is a choice, it's the ultimate luxury. While they were busy leasing cars they couldn't afford and buying $15 smoothies, I was maxing out my 401k. I was contributing to a diversified portfolio of real estate and low-yield, rock-solid bonds. My late husband, God rest his practical soul, was the same. We lived on one salary and invested the other. For 40 years. My net worth, sitting quietly in accounts Tasha and Reggie have never even dreamed of, is in the 7-figure range. I live simply because I like simplicity. I live simply because after a lifetime of auditing the train wrecks of greedy, flashy people, I know what that lifestyle does. It makes you sloppy, it makes you arrogant, it makes you desperate, it makes you, in a word, vulnerable. The setup for this whole disaster was, of course, their own. About 6 months ago, Reggie's brilliant investment in a friend's cryptocurrency scheme imploded, taking their savings if they ever had any with it. They were unceremoniously evicted from their last overpriced trendy apartment. They came to me weeping, a full-scale performance. Tasha in tears, mascara running the expensive waterproof kind, I noted. Reggie looking humbled and broken, a role he played very poorly. Mom, Tasha had sobbed, clutching my hand. We're going to be on the street, the kids, we have nowhere to go, can we just stay with you, just for a month or two, just until we get back on our feet? I knew it was a lie, I knew a month or two meant forever. My analyst's brain screamed at me to say no, to offer them a check for a motel and the number of a good credit counselor. But I saw an opportunity. My analyst's brain, the cold, curious part, saw a chance to run a final domestic audit, to see up close just how deep their dysfunction, their greed, their arrogance truly went. Of course, darlings, I'd said, patting Tasha's hand, my voice full of a warmth I didn't feel. Move in, stay as long as you need. What's mine is yours. I moved my own things into my small guest room, the one I used as a sewing room. And I let them have my master bedroom. I wanted to see up close just how deep their dysfunction went. I wanted to give them the rope. I had no idea they'd be stupid enough to try and hang themselves with it. My temporary arrangement quickly and predictably became a permanent occupation. I, the actual legal mortgage-free owner of the condo, was instantly relegated to the status of unpaid nanny, cook, maid, and, as I would soon discover, primary financial target. Their days were a nauseating performance of self-proclaimed hustle that produced absolutely nothing of tangible value. Tasha would spend hours locked in her office, my old sewing room which she'd commandeered, forcing me to move my things to the even smaller den, filming herself for her Instagram followers. She'd be dressed in $200 yoga pants, talking earnestly to her phone about abundance, manifesting your truth, and cutting toxic low-vibrational people out of her life, a category I was clearly beginning to fall into. Then she'd emerge exhausted from the grind and demand to know why dinner wasn't ready. Reggie, meanwhile, would spend his days at a high-end gym, not as far as I could tell training any of the high-net-worth clients he claimed to have, but mostly taking selfies of his abs in the mirror for his own brand. He'd come home smelling of sweat and expensive cologne, devour a meal I had cooked, and then complain that my conventional food was poison. "Millie, my man," he'd say, "all fake, locker room charm. You gotta get with the program. This conventional chicken, it's full of toxins, it's messing with my gains. We need to be 100% organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised. I'll send you the links." And I was the infrastructure. I watched their two small, badly behaved children, who had been taught that please was optional and no was a starting point for a tantrum. I made their meals, which Tasha would often criticize. "Ugh, Mom, is this conventional chicken?" The toxins, I paid for all the groceries because Tasha's card was always getting flagged for fraud. I paid the soaring utility bills, the high-speed internet they required for their businesses, the endless stream of subscription boxes that arrived at the door. My rent wasn't just my presence in my own home. It was my active daily financial contribution that kept their entire charade afloat. The borrowing, of course, started within the first week. "Mom, I'm just so embarrassed," Tasha would say, her face a mask of perfectly practiced actress-level distress. "My big brand deal with the wellness tea company. They're holding the check, some legal mumbo-jumbo. Can you possibly cover the car payment on the BMW this month? Just this once. I'll pay you back double, I promise." "Millie, my man," Reggie would say, catching me in the hallway, "all fake charm. My top client, the one in Dubai, he forgot to pay his invoice, he's on a yacht. Can you spot me a few hundred for the new shipment of supplements? I'll get you back triple, you know I'm good for it." The money, of course, was never returned. It was never mentioned again. I was no longer their mother, I was their bank. Their soft, stupid, endlessly patient, walking, talking bank. And then the questions. The constant, subtle, probing, greedy questions. "So, Mom, that pension, is that all like liquid?" Tasha would ask, scrolling through her phone, her tone carefully, artificially casual, as if she were asking about the weather. "You should really let me look at your portfolio, Millie," Reggie would say, puffing out his chest. My name in my own home had been downgraded from Mom to Millie by him, a subtle power play. "You're probably in some old-school boomer funds. No real growth. You should be in crypto. You should let me manage it for you. I could 10x that money in 6 months." They were like a pack of clumsy, starving wolves, circling what they thought was a slow, wounded, and very stupid caribou. They saw my modest, frugal life and assumed I was a fool. They saw my savings as their inheritance, just sitting there waiting for them to take it. They were salivating, their greed making them reckless, making them sloppy. I knew with the certainty of an auditor staring at a doctored ledger that it was only a matter of time before they moved from borrowing to outright criminal theft. I just needed to give them the right opportunity. A perfectly baited, perfectly sprung trap. The opportunity to set the trap came, as I knew it would, from their own breathtaking escalating desperation. I had been documenting their loans in my head, a running internal ledger. The balance was growing to an absurd, unpayable amount. I knew they were reaching a breaking point, getting ready to make a riskier, more desperate move. I knew this because I, the forgetful, frail old woman, had decided to give them a little nudge. I accidentally let a bank statement slip out of my purse and onto the kitchen counter just for a moment while I went to the bathroom. It wasn't my real portfolio statement, of course. That was all digital, locked behind 6 layers of encryption. This was just my rainy day checking account at the local community bank. An account I kept as my auditor's mind dictated for situational liquidity. An account I had just last week transferred a very specific, very tempting sum into. I came back out. The statement was exactly where I'd left it. But Tasha, who had been in the kitchen getting water, was standing very, very still, her back to me, staring out the window. Her breath had hitched. I'd seen her sharp, greedy eyes see the balance. $124.37. She'd looked away quickly when she heard me, her smile a little too bright. "Oh, Mom, there you are." I was just admiring the view. But I saw it. The hunger, the calculation, the plan already forming behind her eyes. The bait was in the water. That night, I got my confirmation. I was in my guest room, the door cracked just slightly, pretending to be asleep. My breathing deep and even. I'm a light sleeper. A lifetime of quiet, focused work as an IRS auditor, where the smallest, quietest, most insignificant-looking detail in a 10,000-page file can unravel a multi-million-dollar fraud case, had trained me to listen, to really listen. I heard them whispering in the kitchen, their voices low, urgent, conspiratorial. "Babe, are you sure?" Reggie's voice, nervous, weak. He was a fool, but he was a cowardly fool. 80 grand. Just sitting there, in a checking account. I saw it with my own eyes. "Reg," Tasha hissed, her voice sharp and electric with excitement. "An old dusty passbook-style checking account. She probably forgot it even exists. She's so old she doesn't even use online banking. She just lets her pension pile up in there. A complete fabrication. I manage my 7-figure portfolio online daily, but it was the narrative she needed. We could turn that into millions." "But how do we?" Reggie stammered. "We can't just ask her. She'll say no. She's stingy." "We don't ask, you idiot," Tasha snapped. "We take it. Her debit card, it's in her purse. That ugly old brown one she carries everywhere. I've seen it 100 times. "But Tasha, the PIN," Reggie whispered, his voice full of fear. "She's old," Tasha repeated, her voice dripping with contempt. "She's forgetful. I guarantee she has it written down somewhere. In her wallet, on a piece of paper. You know Mom's new PIN, 8472. Something stupid like that. She's naive. She trusts us." There it was. The arrogance. The pure, unadulterated, fatal assumption of my incompetence. "I'll get the PIN," Tasha whispered, her voice full of absolute chilling confidence. "I'll find it tomorrow. And then, babe, you're going to go to an ATM late at night. The one in the lobby of that 24-hour office building. The one with no security guard. And you are going to drain that account. Every last cent. We'll wire it to an offshore crypto wallet before she even knows it's gone. Pay off the car. Pay off my cards. We can finally breathe." Isn't that stealing, babe?" Reggie the coward whispered, his last flicker of a conscience. "It's not stealing, you fool," she snapped, her patience gone. "It's a transfer, a proactive inheritance taken a little early. She's my mother, it's my money practically. That old woman doesn't need as much as we do. She just sits here all day knitting. It's our duty to put that money to good use. Now be quiet, she might hear us." I lay there in the oppressive darkness of my tiny room, my heart beating a slow, cold, steady rhythm. The auditor's calm. I had my case, I had indisputable confirmation of intent to commit a felony. All I needed to do now was set the trap and bait it. And I knew, with the certainty of a perfectly balanced ledger, exactly how. The 6 days following that whispered, late-night conspiracy were a masterclass in performative guilty behavior. It was almost textbook, a classic case study in amateur fraud, the kind I'd seen unravel 100 times in my professional career. They were so blinded by their own greed and their narrative of my incompetence, that they had no idea their every move was a loud clanging bell, signaling their intentions to the very person they were plotting against. Reggie, my son-in-law, the man Tasha had designated as the bagman, was the most obvious, the most pathetic. He suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. It was a complete 180 from his usual in-your-face performative masculinity. He, a man who normally paraded around the apartment, shirtless after his workouts, flexing his muscles in the reflective surfaces, loudly explaining his process and his macros to anyone who would listen, and even those like me who pointedly wouldn't, became a ghost, a guilty, shuffling, uncomfortable ghost. He'd mumble, "Mornin' Millie," as he bolted for the door at 7 a.m., his gaze firmly fixed on his no doubt expensive sneakers. He'd make endless transparent excuses to be out of the house. He was suddenly inexplicably overwhelmed with new clients. He had to double up his training sessions. He had networking meetings that ran late into the night. He'd eat his meals in his home office, the door pointedly closed, or come home long after I'd gone to my room, tiptoeing down the hall as if afraid to wake the sleeping Mark. He was avoiding me, radiating a guilt so thick and pungent it was almost comical. He was a terrible liar, a weak accomplice, and his palpable cowardice was the first flapping, bright red flag, confirming the absolute authenticity of their plot. He didn't have the stomach for the crime, but he desperately wanted the proceeds. Tasha, on the other hand, was the true operator. She was, I had to admit, a much better liar. She went into full charm offensive mode, dialing up the forced sweetness and exaggerated concern to an almost suffocating degree. Her usual slightly cool, distant politeness towards me morphed overnight into an almost syrupy, cloying wave of manufactured affection and solicitous attention. "Mom," she'd trill, her voice a full false octave higher than normal. Finding me reading in my room. "Can I get you some tea, that special ginger turmeric blend you like? You look a little tired. Let me get you that electric heating pad. You must be so achy from sitting all day." She'd make a point of sitting with me in the living room in the evenings, her phone actually put away, a miracle in itself. She'd ask me about my day with a wide-eyed, intense, almost frightening level of feigned interest. "So your volunteer work at the library? That sounds just fascinating, Mom. Tell me more about the book sorting system. It must be so complex." She was buttering me up, smoothing the path, lulling the simple, forgetful old woman into a state of warm, trusting, pliable security before her husband, the man who couldn't even look at me, robbed me blind in the dead of night. It was all I could do not to laugh in her face, to tell her that her performance was amateurish, her motives transparent. I observed this awkward, transparent, two-pronged psychological dance. His guilty, panicked avoidance, her fake, cloying sweetness with the cool, detached, almost academic amusement of a seasoned auditor watching a desperate mid-level CEO try to explain away a second hidden set of books. They thought they were being so clever. They thought I was completely oblivious. A frail, grateful, slightly senile old woman just happy to be taken care of, overwhelmed by their sudden, inexplicable warmth and attention. They had no idea that I was using their avoidance week, their charm offensive week, as my own crucial final preparation window. They thought they were lulling me into a trap. They didn't know I was the one setting it, and the final, crucial pieces were clicking into place, one by one, while they worried about which tea to serve me. While Tasha was busy fetching me cups of tea I didn't want and complimenting my classic cardigans, and Reggie was busy training clients, likely just hiding at the gym, consumed by his own weak-kneed guilt, I was in my small, cramped guest room, methodically executing the most important audit of my life. This was my world. Logistics, numbers, firewalls, consequences. My first act was simple, defensive and absolute. The $80,000 account they had seen, the one at the local community bank, that was real. It was my rainy day fund, my liquid emergency cash, sitting in a simple high-yield checking account. It was the bait, and I needed to make absolutely certain that all my other assets, my real wealth, were completely, totally and irrevocably firewalled from it. I needed to ensure that when they stole that $80,000, it was the only thing they could ever touch. I made a series of quiet, efficient, untraceable calls from my new anonymous burner phone. My first call was to Arthur Bell, my longtime financial advisor at a major discreet brokerage firm. Arthur and I went way back. He respected my mind and he knew I didn't make frivolous moves. "Arthur," I said, my voice calm, all business, "it's Mildred Carter. I need you to execute contingency plan B on my main portfolio, effective immediately." "Contingency B," he repeated, his voice instantly serious, no questions asked. This was our prearranged code. It meant I felt I was under direct, immediate personal financial threat, possibly from family. "Understood, Mildred, consider it activated." I'll initiate the asset transfer to the Nightingale Trust immediately. Within an hour, Arthur had electronically moved the entirety of my 7-figure investment portfolio. My real wealth, the money from my 401k, my own investments, David's life insurance, into a newly established anonymous irrevocable trust. A trust that Tasha's and Reggie's names would never touch. A trust they didn't even know existed. The fortress walls were up. My second call was to my lawyer, Sarah Jenkins. Sarah is a shark, the best estate lawyer in the city. Sarah, it's Millie. I need you to review the ownership documents for the condo I'm currently residing in. And I need to update my will. Urgently. We confirmed via her own database search what I already knew. The condo was 100% in my name. They were legally just tenants at will, with no lease, no rights, no claim. Good, I said. Now the will. I want Tasha and Reggie explicitly disinherited. I want a specific clause citing to potential financial malfeasance and emotional distress. Make it ironclad, Sarah. Make it permanent. Sarah, who had met Tasha and Reggie once and formed her own negative opinions, didn't even pause. Consider it done, Millie. I'll draft the new will and a formal 30-day eviction notice. Both will be ready to sign, notarize, and file by Wednesday. Just say the word. Thank you, Sarah, I said. I'll be in touch. My third call was to the State Retirement Board. I logged into my online account, a simple secure portal I'd used for years. I navigated to payment instructions. I rerouted my future monthly pension deposits. They would no longer go into my local community bank account, the one Tasha was eyeing. Effective immediately, they would be deposited directly into my secure firewalled and completely hidden brokerage account with Arthur. The tap she was planning to open, the pension she was so eager to make sure I gave her, it was being shut off at the source. In 2 weeks, when the next deposit was due, it would be routed to a place her greedy hands could never ever reach. My assets were now secure. My house was protected, its ownership confirmed. My pension was rerouted. My will was updated. My entire financial fortress was locked down, double-bolted and reinforced with steel. All that was left was the bait. The $80,000 sitting in that simple checking account, waiting like a juicy piece of cheese in a perfectly calibrated, lethally effective trap. Now for the $80,000 account, the bait. My plan wasn't just to stop them, that was too simple. That was just defense. A locked account, a cancelled card. What would that prove? They would just deny, lie, claim it was a misunderstanding, and my life in this condo would become an even more unbearable passive-aggressive hell. No, I wasn't just a financial analyst. I was an auditor. My goal wasn't just to prevent the fraud. It was to prove the fraud, to catch them in the act, red-handed, in a way that was public, undeniable, and immediately catastrophic for them. I needed them to succeed in taking the money. Just for a second. Just long enough for the system to catch them. As a retired senior IRS auditor, I still have connections. I have a certain reputation. I still have lunch once a month with Frank Henderson, the retired, much-feared head of the IRS's Criminal Investigation Division for our region. And Frank Henderson, as it happens, plays poker every Thursday night with the city's chief of police, a man named Alan. I also have a very good, very long-standing relationship with the manager of my small local community bank, a wonderful, no-nonsense woman named Maria Sanchez. I made 2 more calls. These were the important ones. First, to Maria at the bank. I went to see her in person. Maria, I said, sitting in her small, cluttered office, it's Mildred Carter. I have a sensitive and rather unusual situation. I laid it out for her, not the family drama but the facts. I have reason to believe on good authority that a fraudulent attempt will be made to withdraw the entire contents of my checking account, the high-yield one ending in 44052. Soon. And in the middle of the night via an ATM. Maria was horrified. Mrs. Carter, that's terrible. We'll lock it down immediately. We'll put a freeze on it, require in-person photo ID verification for any... No, I interrupted gently but firmly. That's not what I want, Maria. I want the opposite. She stared at me, confused. I want you to authorize the withdrawal. I said. Mildred, I don't understand. You want us to... No, I said, leaning forward. I'm a retired federal auditor, Maria. I am building a case for criminal fraud. To do that, I need the act to be completed. I need them to have the money in their hands, even for just a moment. I need the transaction to be successful to prove, unequivocally, their intent to steal, not just their intent to try. So here's what I need from you. I continued, my voice low. I need you to work with your head of security. I need you to put a high-velocity silent fraud alert on my account. An alert that when triggered by a large after-hours ATM withdrawal approves the transaction, but simultaneously in the same microsecond sends a direct high-priority automated dispatch to the 911 call center and the local police precinct. Not just a text to me, a direct dispatch flagging a felony fraud in progress at that specific ATM location. Maria looked at me, her eyes wide, a slow smile of dawning, impressed understanding spreading across her face. Mrs. Carter, that's diabolical and brilliant. It's just an audit, Maria, I said, a very aggressive one. Can you do it? She paused. That's highly unusual. I'll have to get authorization from corporate security, cite client-assisted fraud prevention, but, yes, Millie, for you, after all you've done for this community, I can get that set up. I'll need your written notarized authorization, of course. It will be on your desk in an hour, I said. My second call was to my old friend Frank Henderson. Frank, I said, getting right to the point, it's Millie. I need a small favor. I'm not going to give you details, you know I can't, but I have a strong IRS audit-level suspicion that a person of interest will be making a highly fraudulent large-volume withdrawal from the ATM at the community bank on 5th and Main sometime in the next few nights. Probably between 2 and 4 a.m. Frank, who knows me, knows my gut. Didn't even laugh. He just grunted. How strong a suspicion, Millie? Pretty sure strong, or bet your pension strong. Some IRS audit-level ironclad strong, Frank, I said. That's all I need to know, he said. I'm playing poker with Chief Allen tonight. I'll casually suggest he might want to increase marked patrol presence in that area. Citing, say, a recent unverified string of late-night ATM skimming reports. He'll understand. He'll probably have a car sitting right across the street, just doing paperwork. Thank you, Frank, I said. Don't thank me, he grumbled. Just catch the bastards. The trap was now fully, beautifully, meticulously set. The bank was authorized to approve the theft. The bank was also primed to send an immediate automated high-priority police dispatch after the theft was approved. And the police? They would just happen to be patrolling that exact block, extra vigilantly, waiting for the call. All that was left was the PIN. This was the easiest and, I had to admit, the most satisfying part of the entire plan. I had to get the PIN into their hands, but I had to do it in a way that perfectly confirmed their narrative of me. I had to be the frail, naive, forgetful old woman they so desperately wanted me to be. I had to bait the hook so perfectly they'd think they were the ones reeling me in. The performance began that afternoon. I accidentally left my purse, that ugly old brown one Tasha so despised, on the living room sofa, a room I knew Tasha snooped in the moment I was out of sight. I left the main zipper slightly open. Inside, just visible, was my simple worn leather wallet. And tucked into the main slot the debit card for the $80,000 community bank account. I went to my room claiming I needed to lie down for my afternoon nap. My back is just aching today. I'd sighed to Tasha, who had nodded with her usual dismissive, impatient sympathy. I didn't nap, I listened. I waited, 10 long, silent, excruciating minutes. Then, creak. The sound of the specific loose floorboard in the living room, the one right in front of the sofa. Then, silence. A heavy, listening silence. Then the faint, almost imperceptible zip-zip of my purse zipper being slowly, carefully, stealthily opened. Gotcha. I gave her a full 5 minutes. I heard the zip again, closing, the creak of the floorboard as she moved away. She had taken the bait. She had seen the card. She had probably taken a quick furtive photo of the front and back, memorizing the number, the expiration date, confirming it was the account from the statement she'd seen earlier. But she didn't have the PIN. Not yet. Phase 2 of the baiting. This one required a bit more theater. The next morning I made a great show of being flustered and panicked in the kitchen, while Tasha was making her complicated green smoothie. Oh goodness, oh dear, I muttered, loud enough for her to hear, patting my pockets, fumbling with my purse. My memory, it's like a sieve these days, an absolute sieve. I went to my purse, pulled out my wallet, and made a show of looking for something. My hands trembling slightly. Tasha dear, I called, my voice full of practiced, elderly, mounting confusion. I just can't seem to remember the PIN number for this new bank card. The bank, they made me change it. Something about new security, and now poof. It's just gone from my head. Tasha glided into the living room, her eyes glittering with a predatory, poorly concealed excitement, her face a mask of false sympathy. Oh Mom, she said, her voice dripping with that fake cloying concern. That's so frustrating. Don't you write it down somewhere? You really should at your age. I know I shouldn't. I whispered, leaning in as if sharing a terribly guilty, scandalous secret. They tell you not to, but I just have to. My memory is so bad. I'm just so foolish. I fumbled in a hidden zippered pocket of my wallet, a pocket I knew she hadn't dared to explore in her quick 5-minute search. I pulled out a small, folded, slightly crumpled piece of yellow sticky note. Ah, here it is, I said, my voice full of breathless, profound relief. Thank heavens, 8472. Oh, I just must find a safer, better place for this. I made a great show of looking around, confused, as if searching for a new brilliant hiding spot. I looked at the sugar bowl. I looked under the sofa cushion. Oh well, I sighed, finally giving up. I'm sure it'll be safe right here in my wallet, tucked right next to the card. Yes, that's smart. That way they're together. I tucked a piece of paper with the PIN 8472 written on it in my large, clear, slightly shaky handwriting, right back into my wallet, in the same slot as the debit card in plain obvious sight. There, I said, patting the wallet with a smile of pure senile satisfaction. I'm sure it'll be perfectly safe in here. Who would ever look in my old purse? I then accidentally forgot my purse on the living room sofa again when I went to take my nap that afternoon. I even left the zipper open. An invitation. I knew with the absolute 100% certainty of an auditor, who has just handed a marked bill to a corrupt politician, that by 3 p.m. that day, Tasha had the card number, the expiration date, the security code, and the PIN. The trap was set, the bait was taken, all the variables were accounted for. I just had to wait for them to build up the courage, the desperation to act, and based on their whispered late-night conversation, their financial desperation was finally fatally overriding their minimal caution. Tonight was the night. I've been an auditor for 40 years. You don't just find fraud, you build an ironclad case. You need intent, proven beyond a reasonable doubt. You need the action, the actus reus, the guilty act itself. And you need evidence, cold, hard, and undeniable. I had the evidence of their characters, built up over 6 months of quiet, painful observation. I had the evidence of Tasha's snooping, which I must admit I had recorded on a tiny motion-activated nanny cam I'd placed on the living room bookshelf, a discreet wide-angle device I'd told them was a new kind of air freshener that emitted cleansing ions. They'd believed me, of course. Poverty mindset didn't extend to understanding modern covert surveillance technology, apparently. I had set the elaborate multi-stage trap with the bank and the police. Now tonight all I needed was the final undeniable proof of their conspiracy in action. The smoking gun conversation. So tonight, I wasn't just pretending to be asleep, I was waiting. I was conducting live surveillance. I went to my room at 9 p.m. as usual, complaining of a migraine from the stress of the day. I turned off my light. I lay in the darkness, my body perfectly still, my breathing deep and even, a practiced performance of sleep. But my ears were straining, listening, my heart a slow, steady, patient drum. 10 p.m. silence, save for the muffled sound of their television. 11 p.m. more silence, the TV now off. Midnight, still quiet, my nerves began to fray, just slightly. Were they chickening out? 1 a.m. I heard it, the faint stealthy creak of their bedroom door opening. Footsteps tiptoeing down the hall. Whispers, not from their room, from the kitchen. This was it. I crept from my bed, my bare feet silent on the cheap carpet. I moved to my door, pressing my ear against the cheap hollow wood, the wood that transmitted sound so perfectly. Okay, she's definitely 100% asleep, Tasha whispered. I checked on her 10 minutes ago, she was snoring. I wasn't, but bless her for thinking so. My feigned, slightly too loud breathing had worked. You have the card? You have the PIN? Yeah, I got it. Reggie's voice. He sounded nervous, shaky, his bravado clearly failing him in the face of the actual criminal act.
Yeah, babe, are you sure about this? Right now? Taking it all? At 3 a.m.? It feels really risky, Tasha.
Don't be a coward, Reggie. Tasha snapped, her voice pure, cold steel, the dominant partner asserting her will. It's perfect. It's because it's 3 a.m. that it's perfect. No witnesses. The ATM in the lobby of that 24-hour office building, the one on 5th and Main, the one with no security guard, it's 2 blocks away. You're in, you're out. You drain the account, max withdrawal transaction after transaction until it's empty or the card stops. Simple. But $80,000 from one ATM, will it even let me? Reggie was clearly looking for an out, a technical failure to save him from his own lack of spine. The daily withdrawal limit is probably high on that account. It's a premium checking or something, Tasha theorized, incorrectly, but with utter confidence. And even if it's not, you just take the max. Wait, no, it's after midnight, so the day just reset. Just take what you can. Take it all. We deserve this, Reggie. All our hard work, our branding, we've been held back by her, by everything. This is our breakthrough, our manifestation. The sheer staggering spiritual bypassing arrogance of it. Manifesting. That old woman, she continued, her voice dropping to a hiss of pure contempt, doesn't need as much money as we do. She just sits here all day knitting. It's waste. It's our duty to put that money to good productive use. And isn't it stealing? Reggie the coward whispered, the last flicker of his conscience. It's not stealing, you fool, she snapped, her patience gone. It's a transfer, a proactive inheritance taken a little early. She's my mother, it's my money, practically. She'd want us to have it if she wasn't so stingy and weird about it. Now be quiet. She might hear us. A beat of silence, then Tasha again, her voice chillingly practical. And I'll make sure she signs over her pension next month. I'll tell her it's for the Mind Family Trust. This is just the start, babe. This is our future. Now go, be quick, and text me the second it's done. I'll be waiting. Okay, Reggie said, his voice weak, resigned, utterly defeated. Okay, babe, for us. I heard the jingle of his keys. I heard the front door of the apartment click open. Then click softly, stealthily, shut. I stood there in the darkness, my hand pressed over my mouth. Not in shock, not in fear. I was trying to stifle my laughter, the sheer amateurish stupidity of it. They were gone. He was gone. He was walking right now to the ATM, to my trap. He was gone. He was out in the cold, dark 3 a.m. city, a man on a mission, a thief sent by his wife, walking with purpose towards his own destruction. I crept back from the door, the adrenaline singing in my veins. A cold, clean, invigorating hum. The rage was gone. The anger, the hurt, the weeks of simmering humiliation, it all just evaporated. It was replaced by a feeling of profound, almost zen-like calm. The cold, quiet satisfaction of a perfectly executed multi-stage audit. The system was working. Every check, every balance, every contingency I had put in place was clicking, one by one, into its designated slot. Arthur had secured my real assets. Impenetrable, untouchable. Sarah had updated my will, disinheriting them, and had the eviction notice ready to file. My pension was rerouted, a ghost moving to a new secure account. The bank's fraud department was on high silent alert, waiting for a specific trigger. Maria had flagged the account, authorized the approval of the withdrawal, and linked it directly to the 911 dispatch. Frank had casually suggested increased patrols to the chief of police. And somewhere out there in the darkness, a marked police car was likely at this very moment sitting quietly, patiently, just around the corner from the 5th and Main Bank branch, doing paperwork, just waiting for the signal. And Reggie, poor stupid weak-willed Reggie. He thought he was a wolf, a predator, heading out into the dark, quiet night to steal from a sleeping, helpless old sheep. He had no idea he was the sheep, a sacrificial lamb, walking right into the shepherd's trap, a trap monitored by the real wolves, the ones with badges and legal authority and the full righteous power of the state behind them. He was a fool, a greedy, arrogant, weak-willed fool, led by his equally foolish, arrogant, and greedy wife. And he was about to pay the full, immediate, and very public price for their shared stupidity and lack of character. I walked back to my small, uncomfortable cot. I pulled back the thin, worn blanket, the one they probably bought at a discount store, judging by its texture. I lay down, I closed my eyes. I heard the distant faint sound of a city siren, probably just a routine call, an ambulance completely unrelated, but it felt appropriate, a pre-echo of the justice that was about to be served. I smiled in the darkness. This, I thought to myself, my mind already calculating the compound interest on Tasha's future wreckage. This is what you call a high-yield return on investment. This is the audit coming due. I let the exhaustion of the day, of the week, of the performance, finally claim me. I went back to sleep. A deep, peaceful, dreamless, and profoundly satisfied sleep. I wasn't there, of course. I was sound asleep, the most peaceful sleep I'd had in 6 months. But based on the detailed, almost gleeful police report that Sarah, my lawyer, forwarded to me the next day. A report she got from Chief Allen himself, who owed Frank Henderson a favor. I can picture the scene in all its pathetic cinematic glory. 3:17 a.m. The 24-hour ATM vestibule at the Community Bank branch, 5th and Main. The streets are empty, silent, bathed in the sickly flickering yellow glow of the streetlights. Reggie arrives. He's wearing a dark hoodie, the hood pulled up, his face shadowed. A guilty man trying badly to look inconspicuous, which of course just makes him look infinitely more suspicious. He probably jogged the 2 blocks trying to look like he was just out for a late-night run. He glances nervously up and down the empty street. No one, he's clear. He swiped my debit card, my card, to get into the 24-hour glass-walled vestibule. Click. The door unlocks. Trigger 1. The bank's high-level security system, flagged by Maria Sanchez, instantly logs the non-standard 3 a.m. entry linked to my high-alert police dispatch linked account. An alert flashes on a screen in the bank's 24-hour security hub. A silent alarm is tripped, noting the access. Reggie walks up to the ATM. He's probably sweating now despite the cold, his heart hammering in his chest, the adrenaline of the crime making his hands shake. He inserts my card. He takes a deep breath. He types in the PIN. 8472. The machine whirs, a moment of agonizing tension. The screen flashes, "Welcome Mildred Carter. Please select a transaction." He lets out a breath, a shaky triumphant sigh of relief. He's in. It was that easy. The old woman was a fool. Tasha was a genius. They were rich. He hits the check balance button first, as Tasha instructed. He needs to see it to confirm. The screen flashes, checking account 4452. Available balance $80 and $124.50. His eyes probably bugged out of his head. The sheer intoxicating reality of it. Right there in glowing green numbers. The G-Wagon. The debt paid off. Tasha's happiness. All of it just a few button presses away. His hands are probably trembling with greed and excitement now. He hits withdrawal, checking other amount. What's the max? $1,000? $2,000? He types in the maximum the machine will allow. $1,000. The machine whirs, thinks, click, clack, clack, and then, transaction cancelled. Please contact your bank for assistance. He frowns. What the? Just a glitch. He tries again. $500. Transaction cancelled. Your card has been temporarily locked due to suspicious activity. No, 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 he mutters, panic rising. What's wrong? He tries to get the card back. He hits cancel. Cancel. The machine whirs again. A different sound. A mechanical grinding sound. And it eats his card. Card retained. Please contact your bank. He's frantic now. He's desperate. He starts banging his fist, his big muscular fist, on the machine. Come on, give it back, you piece of... He's so focused on the machine. So consumed by his rage and his panic. So devastated by the sight of $80,000 vanishing before his very eyes, that he doesn't hear the whoop-whoop of the approaching siren until it's too late. He spins around, his eyes wide with terror, and his world ends. Flashing red and blue lights fill the small glass vestibule, painting his terrified sweaty face in strobing nightmarish colors. A police car, the one that just happened to be patrolling this exact block, has pulled up right behind his leased BMW, blocking him in. 2 officers get out, their movements calm, practiced, their hands on their holsters. They had received the high-velocity fraud alert, felony in progress dispatch from the bank's security hub the second his first transaction was denied. He's trapped, caught, red-handed at 3:19 a.m. in a hoodie, trying to drain a retired 68-year-old woman's bank account. The trap, my beautiful perfect multi-stage audibly witnessed and now police documented trap, had sprung. I was already awake when Tasha's phone buzzed. I'd been sleeping, yes, but the light, satisfied victorious sleep of an auditor who has just filed a finished ironclad case. The sound, at 3:20 a.m. was a dull bust-dip through the wall. Like an angry trapped wasp. I heard Tasha stir, a sleepy annoyed murmur. What? Reg? Did you get it? Is it done? I heard her tap her phone screen, the silence stretching. And then, silence. A thick, heavy, absolute silence that lasted for maybe 10 long, beautiful, agonizing seconds. Then came the sound I had been waiting for. The sound I knew I would cherish for the rest of my days. It wasn't a shout, it wasn't a scream, not yet. It was a low, strangled, oh no. Then a frantic rustling of sheets. A thud as her bare feet hit the cold hardwood floor. No, 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 no. Her voice escalated from a horrified, disbelieving whisper to a full-blown hysterical shriek that probably woke the entire floor. Reggie, what did you do? What did you do? She was reading the text I knew he'd send. The frantic, panicked one phone call text from the back of the police car. The text I'd pictured in my head as I drifted off to sleep. The text that was the true, final, beautiful punchline to my entire operation. Babe, I'm at the bank. The ATM, the card, it got stuck. The cops are here. They're arresting me. Babe, your mom, she must have known. She knew everything. They said the account was flagged. They said she flagged it. Babe, what's going on? What do I do? I heard Tasha scream again. A sound of pure unadulterated cornered rat panic. She was running around their room grabbing what? Clothes? Her laptop? The sounds were frantic, chaotic. Her phone buzzed again, loudly this time. Bien, 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 bien. And then, thump, thump, thump. She was at my door hammering on it with both fists, her blows frantic, desperate. Mom, wake up right now, something's happened. I took a slow, deep, satisfying breath. I let her knock again, let the panic build, let her soak in the terror of her own consequences. Thump, 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 Mom, wake up, it's an emergency. I finally slowly climbed out of my cot. I put on my old worn flannel bathrobe. I ran a hand through my sleep-mussed hair. I shuffled to the door, putting on the perfect award-winning performance of a confused, sleepy, slightly deaf, harmless old woman. I opened the door, rubbing my eyes, putting on the perfect performance of a confused, sleepy, slightly deaf old woman. What? Tasha? Honey? What's wrong? Is it a fire? Her face was a mask of pure primal terror. Mascara was already running down her cheeks from her hysterical tears. Her hair, usually so perfectly styled, was wild, sticking up in frantic tufts. She was wearing a tiny, expensive-looking silk pajama set, and she was trembling, either from cold or from sheer unadulterated panic. It's Reggie, she shrieked, her voice a raw, ragged sound. He went to the ATM, just to get some cash, and they're arresting him. The bank, they said the card was stolen. I put my hand to my chest, my face a picture of pure grandmotherly shock and confusion. Stolen? Oh heavens. Stolen by who? Did they catch the thief? No, Mom, you don't understand, she sobbed, grabbing my arm, her nails digging into my thin robe. He was using your card, the one from your purse. He must have grabbed it by mistake. You know, in the dark, they look alike. The lie was so pathetic, so desperate, so insulting to my intelligence, I almost felt a flicker of pity for her. Almost. My card, I said, feigning total, bewildered confusion. My new card? The one from the community bank? The one with the PIN 8472? Her face went white. Absolutely, positively, bloodlessly white. Her hand dropped from my arm. She knew in that single devastating instant that I knew. Oh dear, I said, my voice full of dawning, horrified realization, shaking my head sadly. Oh Tasha, that card, I told the bank that card was stolen, yesterday afternoon. You? What? She whispered, the word a tiny dead puff of air. Yes, I said, my voice full of tragic, elderly regret. When I couldn't find my purse yesterday afternoon, the one I'd forgotten on the living room table for a few hours, I just panicked. I assumed it was stolen, maybe by a delivery person. I called Maria, my nice manager at the bank, immediately. I told her to lock it down, to flag it, to put an alert on it, to call the police if anyone tried to use it, especially at an ATM. I was just so worried about my $80,000. I looked her dead in the eye, my confusion and frailty evaporating like morning mist, replaced by the cold, hard, flat, analytical gaze of an IRS auditor who has just found the hidden fraudulent ledger. Imagine my surprise, I said, my voice dropping to a low, icy conversational tone, when the person who used it was Reggie. At 3:19 a.m., trying to withdraw, what was it? Oh yes, $80,000. Her world, her lies, her entire future, it all collapsed right there in the dimly lit hallway of my condo. She just stared at me, her mouth open, the truth, in all its devastating, catastrophic, perfectly sprung trap glory, finally, devastatingly revealed. She hadn't just been caught, she had been hunted, and the simple old woman she'd planned to fleece was the hunter. Tasha just stared at me, her face a mask of utter silent ruin. The high-pitched wail of her panic had died in her throat, replaced by the stunned, suffocating silence of a person who has just watched her entire life detonate in front of her. You knew, she whispered, the accusation a broken, breathless, disbelieving thing. You set him up. I'm a forensic accountant, Tasha. I said, my voice no longer frail, no longer confused. It was the voice I used in depositions, cold, clear, final. My job for 40 years was to find the lie, and you You're the sloppiest, most arrogant, most predictable liars I've ever had the misfortune of auditing. You let him," she stammered, her mind fumbling, trying to process the scale of her miscalculation. "You let him go. You let them arrest him. Your own family." "He's a grown man, Tasha," I replied, turning away from her, walking calmly into the kitchen. My kitchen. In my condo. I filled the kettle with water. I took down my favorite mug. "He's also a thief. He made a choice. He conspired with you to steal my life savings in the middle of the night. Actions, as you wellness people are so fond of saying, have consequences. I simply provided an environment for those consequences to be documented." I walked past her, ignoring her as if she were a piece of furniture. Tasha followed me, stumbling, her movements jerky, uncoordinated, her designer pajamas rumpled, her face a mess of tears and dawning, cold terror. "But what about me? What about the money? The bills? The car? The pension?" She was still, even now. Even in the face of criminal charges and total ruin, thinking about the money. The arrogance was truly breathtaking. I turned the kettle in my hand and looked at her, at this grasping, greedy, broken woman who had betrayed my trust and insulted my intelligence at every turn. "The pension," I said, my voice light, almost amused. "Oh, that, yes. I rerouted all my pension deposits last week. It's no longer being deposited into any account you have access to or even knowledge of. It's now in a secure trust account with my financial advisor, along with the rest of my plenty of money. The bank, as I call it, Tasha, is permanently closed." I set the kettle on the stove and turned on the blue flame. "As for your bills," I continued, my voice conversational, "and your car, and your expensive lifestyle, well, as you so clearly pointed out in your whispered late-night financial planning session, I'm just an old woman who doesn't need as much as you do. So I'm sure you, a brilliant brand consultant, and Reggie, a high-end personal trainer, will have no trouble at all managing on your own. Assuming, of course," I added, as a thoughtful afterthought, "he makes bail. Attempted grand theft, conspiracy to commit financial elder abuse, the bail is probably going to be set quite high. And I highly doubt they'll accept a check from a maxed-out credit card." She let out another strangled sob. This one of pure financial terror. You set us up, you tricked us." "No, dear," I said, pulling a simple tea bag from the canister. "I didn't, I just documented your intentions. I audited your characters and found them severely lacking. I put the proper internal controls in place to protect my assets, as any good analyst would. You and Reggie are the ones who actively, consciously chose to commit felony fraud. I just made sure you did it in front of a live, uniformed, heavily armed audience." I looked at her, at this pathetic creature, and I felt nothing. No pity, no remorse, no anger, even. Just the quiet, clean, profound satisfaction of a complex file. Finally, neatly, correctly, closed. The kettle began to whistle. "Now if you'll excuse me," I said, turning my back on her, pouring the boiling water into my favorite mug. "I'm going to have my tea. I believe you have a rather urgent phone call to make. To a bail bondsman, I suspect." And then I added, turning back to face her one last time, my voice firm, final, and utterly devoid of warmth. "I'd like you to pack your things, all of them. Yours, Reggie's, the children's. I'm having the locks on my condo changed at 9 a.m. sharp. My lawyer, Miss Jenkins, will be here with a police escort to oversee your removal. Just to ensure the transition is..." The finality of it, the eviction, hit her harder than the arrest. You're kicking us out?" she whispered, her voice full of disbelief. "Us? Your family? The children?" "You," I said, "are tenants at will who have just attempted to defraud the landlord. And you," I corrected her, my voice turning to ice, "are not my family. Not anymore. You are just a very, very bad investment. A non-performing asset. And I, as a prudent financial analyst, am cutting my losses." The auditor, the old woman, the frail retiree, had officially and finally closed the case. I left her there, collapsing in the hallway, and went to my bedroom, my real bedroom, the master which I had reclaimed as soon as they left for their party, with my cup of tea. I sat in my favorite armchair by the window, watching the first faint gray light of dawn begin to break over the city. The police came, as I knew they would. Around 5 a.m. They had questions for me. I was ready. I showed them the nanny cam footage of Tasha snooping in my purse. I played them the audio recording of the conspiracy. My case was ironclad. They took Tasha in her silk pajamas and handcuffs for questioning as a co-conspirator. It was all very quiet, very professional. By 9:05 a.m. Tasha and a bailed-out, humiliated, trembling Reggie were frantically, silently throwing their designer junk into trash bags under the watchful, bored eyes of two uniformed police officers, and my lawyer Sarah, who was checking items off an inventory list. By noon they were gone. The condo was empty, the locks were changed. I stood in the middle of my living room, my real living room, now blissfully quiet, filled with my things, my peace. I made myself another cup of tea. I sat in my favorite armchair, looked out the window at the small peaceful park, and I checked my brokerage account online. The 7-figure balance was secure. My pension safe in its new hidden account was pending. I smiled. The financial analyst had successfully restructured her portfolio, eliminated the non-performing, highly toxic assets and protected her bottom line. Lesson delivered. Case closed.